All right, guys. So I'm going to go over with you today specifically about how to not be broke, right? And I'll tell you this. It's funny. I think immediately, I'm telling you this. That lady on the airplane. No, that's not what I'm trying to say. But I'm telling you this, that the secret has very little to do with how much money you are making. It's more the relationship that you have to money. And I'll tell you, so let me give you an example. I know people that are doctors, lawyers, high professionals making high income that have no money and are broke. And those people, the reason that they're broke, it has nothing to do with their lack of ability to make money. Another good example of this is there's a board game made by Robert Kiyosaki, and it's called Cash Flow. In the game, in the beginning of the game, they pass out cards, and these cards are what your job is, how much money you make, how much your overhead is, and all that stuff. And in those cards, you have to, filter out what it is, and you have to make more than your normal expenses. And the problem is generally when you're a professional, you have high expenses. You have a big old house, you have big fancy cars, you have a certain type of lifestyle, certain type of clothes, right, that you have to wear to become successful or to feel like you fit in with your peers, right? And that's all the lie. That's the big lie, okay? So the number one thing is you have to live below your means. And I would start with the 70% rule, okay? There's a really good book. It's The Richest Man in Babylon. I recommend it to everybody. In that book, it talks about you save 10% and you give away 10%, right? Or you save 20%, you invest 10%, and then you give away 10%. So I just say it's 70% rule. So you live off of 70% of your income, and you save 10%, you invest 10%, and you give 10%. Okay? Give 10%, you save 10%, and then you invest 10%. Okay? Now, you don't just invest it in the S&P 500. Okay? That's not necessarily what's going to make you successful. That's the second thing, is you have to think outside the box. So what he says in that book is you find somebody that is in a certain profession and that has success in this profession, and then you invest in them in that profession. Okay? That's the difference. So if one person is a jeweler, you don't go and invest in the jeweler's new idea to open a laundromat, right? You invest in the jeweler's idea to do something with jewelry because he knows that business and he could be successful in that business, so you have higher odds. Okay, so don't invest in somebody's in Denver that has never done it before. You invest in them with something that they've done before and they know what they're doing. Okay, and you don't have to invest it every single month. You can let that 10% accumulate. Okay, once that money accumulates and to a certain point where you can invest it, then you do it, and that'll give you time to find the proper investment and to learn about the different businesses and learn how to evaluate a business, learn how to look at a P&L statement so that you can invest in it, or look at a cash flow analysis or an ROI or a cap rate, and to understand these things when you're looking at some real estate. Okay, so invest. And the savings, okay, the savings is you never touch the savings except for in emergencies. The same thing with the investment. You never touch the investment even when it starts producing money. Okay, you let it produce money and then you reinvest that money back, and it compounds on itself. And that's how success is done. So you still will make 70% of your money and invest the difference. Now, the problem is that I dealt with was because I did investing and wholesaling full time, and I lived off of what I was doing. So I was, in a sense, self-employed. There's a difference, right? Then if you're a W-2 person and you have investments or you have a side hustle, so you can live off of your W-2, 70% of that, and then invest the difference, okay? But when you're in the business, man, it does take a lot of work and a lot of discipline to not spend every little amount of money that you get, right? It's very difficult. So what I would recommend is to get a bookkeeper and have a bookkeeper that can funnel money into a separate account, and she's like the rake of your life, and she takes that 10% and the 10% to give and the 10% to invest, and she puts it away. Now, investing in your own business is not a bad idea, okay? I invest in my business all the time, but there's a difference between investing for the long term, investing for the short term, and then investing for just to make more money, okay? So there's a difference. Okay, so first, you got to live below your means, 70%. You got to save, invest, and give away. When you're giving it away money, you want to give it away to a nonprofit, A, for the tax benefit, and B, because you want to give back, okay? You want to find something that you're passionate about, people that you want to help, and a church. I like to give to my church and give that to them so that you can, and it's also, it changes your mentality of, it goes from lack to abundance. Giving changes your mentality from lack to abundance, okay? So that's another reason why you need to give. Okay, and number 2 is the lie about getting a degree and getting a job, and that's going to make you successful. Your 401k is not going to make you rich or successful. Your 9 to 5 is generally not going to make you successful unless you get in these early startup companies and you could become rich, like when Microsoft went public or Apple went public or Walmart went public. You have a lot of these stories about people that got profit shares or stock in the company, and when it went public they became millionaires, but the odds are high against it. And then work outside the box, and that's when you literally either create your own business or invest in other people's business, and you play the odds, okay? And when you're investing in other people's business or your own business, you have a high risk ratio but a high reward ratio, so it's kind of one or the other. And honestly, I think everybody should invest in some type of real estate, buy some property, do something with it, and invest for the long term. But don't, okay, it's weird, but don't eat your profit. You got to let your profit compound over time so that you can become successful, okay? Don't eat your profit. Don't eat your profit. You got to let your profit go back, right? So there's one concept, and I'll close with this, is if you get like an orange, right? And you cut open an orange, inside of that orange, there's seeds, okay? In that seed, you could plant and get an orange tree. And then out of that orange seed, you could get more fruit, which inside the fruit has more seeds for more of the same profit. And this is the law of multiplication, okay? So one seed literally has infinite amount of fruit forever, okay? If you will plant it back in the ground and not eat your own seed, not eat your own profit. So put some more seed in the ground. Stop spending it on vacations and a nicer car and a nicer, suit or nicer house or whatever, just to impress people that don't care. They don't care, okay? And I know it's hard, especially if you're married, and you have to convince the other person to live below your means, but it's worth it. I promise you. Get out of this consumer mindset, It reminds me a lot of that movie They Live, where it says, just consume, you know, and inside every marketing thing is just programming you to spend and destroy your own wealth for things that you don't need. It's very much like in the beginning of the movie Fight Club, when he's sitting on the couch and he's looking through that magazine and he's reading, he's like, what kind of couch fits my personality, right? What kind of end table fits my personality as a man? None. I promise you, there's not it doesn't say anything that important about you, what kind of end table you have. It really doesn't. So just let it go. So that's my word for you, my word for advice for you guys today. I hope it helps you. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and like and subscribe this, and we'll see you guys in the next one. God bless you.
Yay! That was good.